Good morning. It's we're on 80B at the bottom, second line from the bottom. Now, matana matana achas. The Mishnah had said that if you mixed blood a from a carbon that requires four applications of blood on the mizbeach with blood that requires one application on the mizbeach, so Rabbi Elazar said that so do four matanos. So if Rabbi Elazar holds that there's no bila, right, which is what we're talking about, what is Rabbi Elazar's stance on whether two liquids mixed together uh, become one, like are completely integrated, or if we consider it like there's parts of ingredient A and parts of it have ingredient B, and they remain separate within the mixture. So if Rabbi Elazar holds that there's ein bila, that there's no blending, then there are separated entities. So shouldn't we be worried that like maybe the dam that you applied to the mizbech was only from one of the ingredients? And maybe you want to answer that. Maybe the Mishnah is talking um, about four um, four measures of blood mixed with from one carbon that mixed with one measure of blood from the other one. Um, so then you could then he would say Yihache, and then that's why Rabbi Elazar says that all the blood should be put on the corners of the mizbeach so that you get four matanos. So then Rabbi Yeshua says to him that you'd be over on Bal Tosef. You'd be adding something that the Torah did not describe. Like there's no extra applications of blood being made here, right? Everything is done in its proper way, if that's how you're doing it. So we need another reason. What is like? How do we explain Rav Ashi, who said that Rabbi Elazar says Ein Bila Elam Rava? Actually, Rabbi Elazar and the Rabbanan do not argue about. Okay, that's what they're arguing about is not what we've been assuming, which is that you have one container that contains two types of blood. No, kiplive kosos. We're talking about no. You have different vessels of blood in front of you, but you don't remember which is which. They got mixed up with each other. So there's no bila because each cup of blood, each vessel of blood has its own identity. Um, it's not like they're all mixed up together. Just you don't know which is which. So L'Rabbi Eliezer Islay rowing. So we're not talking about bila. Bila is not the problem. The problem is rowing. Rabbi Elazar says that that rowing is can be applied here. Okay, um, because rowing would apply to the extra blood that you're applying that technically is incorrect, but we see it as if it's water. We don't consider it as if it's blood. So that's the principle of rowing here. And the Rabban likes to rowing, and the rabbis don't have this idea. So the machlokas is not about blending liquids together. It's about something completely different. The Gemara says, wait, no, I can show you that they argue, however you want to explain this Mishnah, it's reasonable to assume that the argument is about Balul, about Bila, because I'll show you that they do argue about Bila. From another source, I'll tell you, we have a brisa. Amar Bila, Lo nechu karu azru chachamim al dam chatash nisar b'dam ola sheikra. Elazar and the rabbis did not argue about the blood of a chatos mixed with the blood of an ola. They both agree that it can be applied to the mizbeach. Or or if you have blood of two animals, one is a regular animal, and one was involved in bestiality. What did they? In other words, that they both agree that that's okay. What is their argument? If you have a regular ola, And you have one that's a balmum that has a blemish and can't be offered on Mizbeach. Rabbi Eliezer, Amar Yikrav. And these two got mixed together. Rabbi Eliezer says it's fine. They can go on the Mizbeach, bein b'balul, bein b'chosos. I'm sorry, it's the blood of each one, not the animals themselves. Um, and Rabbi Eliezer says specifically, doesn't matter if the blood was mixed together in one vessel or if you have two separate vessels and you don't know which is which. Either way, it's fine. And the rabbis say no. So clearly they are arguing about Bila. So the Gemara answers Rabbi Yehuda Alibad Rabbi Elazar Masne Bein B'Bal Bein B'Kosos. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says that, in his opinion, this is Rabbi Elazar. This is Rabbi Elazar's position that it doesn't matter if it's mixed together in one cup or there's several cups that got confused with each other. Rabbanon B'Kosos Plige. And the rabbis are only arguing about the separate cups. Okay, so we understood the brisa to mean that the rabbis are arguing with Rabbi Elazar about both cases, but Rabbi Yehuda says no. They agree with him about the mixed blood. Okay, so there is no machlokas in this view about bila, about whether the blood together in one vessel gets mixed or not. They're only arguing about when the separate vessels got in that price, so they're only arguing about the case of separate vessels. Now, a little bit more about that. Rabbi Abai says that the machlokas is only what's the specific case that they're arguing about, Rabbi Elazar and the Chachamim, so we're going to talk about like the beginning blood and the end blood, meaning that there's the blood that you offer on the Mizbeach, that you apply to the Mizbeach, and then the rest, the leftover blood, whatever's left, gets poured onto the base of the Mizbeach. So Abai is saying the machlokas is about the initial blood of the chatos and the initial blood of the ola. And the problem there is that has to be applied to different parts of the mizbeach, one to the top half and one to the bottom half. Of all sof chatos viola, but we're talking about the shiare hadam, the ending blood, the blood that gets poured out on the base. Divrei called makom ola makom shiraim. Then everybody agrees that it's fine to pour on the blood because both of these get poured onto the base of the mizbeach, whether it's the oil or the chatos. So of course it's fine to pour this mixture onto the base of the mizbeach. But Amar Rabbi Yossi says, "Hachi Amar Rabbi Yehuda." This is what Rabbi Yehuda says: "Shirayim tzrichin yitztaba." No, there is still a difference between the ola and the chatos in the case of the shirayim blood that you pour out, because the chatos. The chatos has to be poured directly onto the base of the mizbeach, whereas the ola blood can be poured onto the side of the mizbeach and drip down onto the base. So it's not so simple. So it's not that necessarily the case that the machlokas is only on the initial blood. It could be on the leftover blood as well, because there are different rules for it, just like there's different rules for the initial blood. Similarly, we have what Rav Shimon says. This is Abaye's position that the only machlokas is the initial blood, but the end blood, the leftover blood, that they all end up on the base of the mizbeach anyway. So of course it doesn't matter if they got mixed up. You just pour it onto the base. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, it's still a problem because again, as we said, in the case of the chatas, you pour it directly onto the base of the mizbeach. In the case of the ola, you pour it on the side of the mizbeach and it drips down. So there is a different procedure, and so it's not. So the machlokas could apply to both cases. Now, Masi Bar Huna Bar Yehuda asks, Kodashem. Torah says about the Bechor, they're holy, right? Sheim Nisariv Bedam Kashim Acherim Yikruvu. That tells you that if the Bechor blood gets mixed up with other Kashim blood, still you can proceed with applying it to the Mizbeach. My love and doing the Aval. My love Sof Ola Bechor. So we must be talking about, or assuming we're talking about the end, the Shirayim, because they both get poured onto the base. And so that tells you that yes, and since whether or not this is the same thing, the same issue we just dealt with, you could say that since they both end up on the base of the mizbeach, it's fine to just pour it on the base of the mizbeach. And the verse says, "Lo tchilas ola b'char." Now we're talking about mixing up the initial blood of the ola and the initial blood of the bukhar. So obviously, like what's it telling us? Of course, we know that there's different procedures. And only in mevatling zezeh that one that there's no beetle that if they got mixed together, one does not take over. No, sorry, that they can be both. They're both applied to below the line of the mizbeach. So why can't you do it if they both have the same rule? Then just go ahead and apply the mixed blood to the lower part of the mizbeach. The answer is ein olos mevatlin zuzu. You once they get mixed together, if there's more than one type of blood, then one doesn't cancel out the other. So the Gemara says, wait a minute, you want to get them from Kodesh, but Haimi v'lakach midam hapar midam seir nafka. That we get from a different pasuk. So on Yom Kippur, it says that the Kohen Gadol takes from the blood of the par and the blood of the seir and mixes the cow and the goat and mixes them together. So and yet it calls them dam hapar and dam haseir. It doesn't say from the mixed blood. It says from the blood of the bull and the blood of the goat, which that is also seems to be a source for the same rule, right? That even once they're mixed together, they still have their distinct identities. Versus Tanaihi, yes, it's a machlokas Tanaim. Some, and the Gemara will analyze this a little bit further on. How is it that you have two sources for one thing? Some Tanaim say this is the source, some Tanaim say that's the source. We'll see a little bit more about that in a minute. Masi Rava. Rava asked, "V'hikrivu b'nei Aaron asadam v'zarku asadam." The Kohanim take the blood and they throw or they apply the blood on the mizbeach. Ma dam dam. Why does it use the word dam twice? Right. Obviously, the subject of the sentence is dam. Once you've said it once, why do you need to say it again? Talmud Lomar. I might think that the only mixture that we're talking about is the ola is mixed. The blood of the ola is mixed with the blood of its substitute, right? So as we've discussed many times, if you try to substitute one animal for another for a kodesh animal, then it doesn't really work. Like both of them become kodesh, but only one can be the chatos. Shaf mechaim tikrav. Even if they're mixed when they're still alive, you still bring an ola. Sorry, I say chatos before I'm an ola. Minayin l'rabos toda shlamim. So that is the case. I would think maybe only for the ola. How do I know it applies also to other kinds of korbanos like a toda and shlamim? Marba ani toda shlamim shabayin b'neder nadav hakamasa, because they are similar to an ola in that they are donated, right, or given as a neder or nadava. Minayin l'rabos asham. Now, would I also include an asham? That's not a donation. That's because you're atoning for a sin. Marba ani asham shaton matan arba kamosa. Well, guess what? An asham requires 4 applications of blood, just like an ola. So it's similar enough that we're going to apply the same rule. And b'chor maser pesach minayin. What about these other 3 types of korbanos? B'chor maser and pesach. Dam dam. That's why you have the extra word dam to include other korbanos that have the same rule that if the blood gets mixed up, you can still use it. So my love sof olo b'char. So what is this Bryce talking about? Aren't we talking about? Let's assume we're talking about the shirayim, the leftover blood of the ola and the b'char, because they both go to the same place. Shirayim. And then from that you can see that the where you pour the leftover blood of the ola and the b'char is the base of the mizbeach. Where it says not necessarily. Tchilas ola b'char could be the initial blood that you apply on the walls of the mizbeach. So what's it telling us? the Ein Olin Mivatlin said that these two different kinds of blood mixed together don't cancel each other out. Um, it's not telling us like that they're poured in the same place. It's telling us that they don't cancel each other out. Um, Now we said before, mivalakach midama par midama seir nafka. We said before that you get that from the pasuk where the Kohen Gadol mixes two types of blood, but they're still referred to as their original types. Some, as we said before, there's two different sources. Now we're going to see like what's up with these two different sources. Like why is there why are there different views about what the source is? Not to use this verse of the Kohen Gadol mixing the two kinds of blood, but they're still referred to as by their original types. Kasavre and Ma'arvin Lakranos, because they hold that you don't mix the blood of these two types of karbanos to apply on the corners of the mizbeach. So hang on a second. Yes, there's a further procedure of applying the Kohen Gadol applies the blood of each of the par and the seir to the corners of the mizbeach, but there's no indication there that they're mixed together. It's the blood that's sprinkled towards the parochas, towards the kodesh kodashim, that specifically says that they are mixed together. But we still have the distinct. We haven't mixed together all the blood. We still have some separate par blood and seir blood that's used for applying on the corners of the mizbeach, and that's why you could say, well, that's why they're referred to still as separate, because there still exists separate buckets of these two types of blood. And now from the other side, midam dam lo yalif. So if you want to take that, if you want to use lakach midam par midam seir, why wouldn't you say the extra word dam is enough to is the source for this rule? It's not such a convincing extra word. So then it just becomes a question of, do I consider this an extra word that you learn something from or not? Ella mikodesh haim, my tamali alfe. Okay, wait a second. Why don't they all take this rule from kodesh haim, from what we saw originally? So every kodesh haim craving vein tmuras and craving. We're already using that. That tells you that a tmura, that an exchange animal, it doesn't get. If you try to do an exchange, the exchanged animal is holy, but it's not offered on the as a bukhar. V'idach. And the other side, if you don't use that pasuk, then you can use it from this pasuk, whether the bukhar is an ox or a sheep. It belongs to God. Who karivein t'morasa kareva. That's where you get the idea that Lashem, who that only that one belongs, as it were, to Hashem and not its Tamura. Okay, so we've got multiple sources, a lot of moving parts here, but basically the Gemara advances a reason why you would use each one of them and not the other, and why there is this difference of opinion. Okay, so where we up to now is we're back to where we were trying to prove that the leftover blood of a chatas can be poured in the same place as the leftover blood of an ola. And as I said, the chatas goes directly on the base. The ola goes on the wall and drips down to the base. Tashma. Nasan lamala v'lo nimlach. What if you had this mixed blood?
But then we learned before the chatat goes on the top and the ola on the bottom. Below chatat is above the line.
Oh, did I say that backwards?
No, I'm not. I'm just from previous learnings that the chatat is above the line, right? And the ola is below the line.
Right, but now we're talking about the shiare hadam, the leftover blood.
Oh, okay.
So the leftover blood of the chatas gets poured directly onto the base, and and the ola blood should be poured on the wall and drip down onto the base. What if you have a mixture? So we've been saying that
Right.
it's okay if you pour it directly on the base, like the chatas, because eventually that's where the ola blood ends up anyway. So it's fine if it ends up if you pour it
Right.
directly on the base. Toshma, no son lamal of. What if you have a case of this mixed blood and the Kohen doesn't ask the question like, "Oh my gosh, these got mixed up. What do I do?" He just went ahead and he applied the blood, the mixed blood, above, on the wall of his mizbeach, above the line. Well, the chatas part, the chatas hasn't been applied properly because it's supposed to be applied below the line. So you have to go ahead and do that as well. Only low, and then chatas blood has been applied below the line, and all blood has been applied above the line as it's supposed to be. Now, my love, the aru chatas fiola. So we've been assuming, and that's what the Gemara is assuming right now, is that the case we're talking about is when the blood of the chatas got mixed up with the blood of the ola. So what do you do? So if you already went and applied it above the line, you should also go and apply it below the line. Right. And once you've applied above the line, the rest of the blood is leftover blood. And it should be poured directly, if it's a chatas, it should be poured directly on the base. But everybody agrees that you apply it to the wall below the line. So you can prove from that the place of applying the blood for an ola is the same as the place of the shiarim for the shiari hadam for the chatas, meaning on the wall. So Kias Rabbi Yisrael Bar Yosef Amar Rabbi Yisrael said, Amar B'Marav, they say in the west, in Palestine, Hacham Ma'asinan, what are we talking about? Kugon Di'arev Chatos Achitzona B'Shirayim. No, we're talking about a case where the it's a chatos for the outside mizbeach and got mixed up with the shiarim of an inside chatos, so the chatos on the inside mizbeach. So if you already applied blood above the line, all of the blood is shirayim, and then you can pour it below. You can pour it. You can apply it below the line. I don't know if I have a name. Amar can go to shirayim. Why should take a simpler case that the why are you mixing up the inside mizbeach, the outside mizbeach? You can have a case where both karbanos were for the outside mizbeach, and they got mixed, and shirayim got mixed up with the original, with the initial blood. So maybe it's telling us why are we mixing in the inside mizbeach? Even if you say that the shirayim has to be done specifically on the base, but if if it's not all of the blood, some of it was applied on the wall of the mizbeach and drips down, it's still okay. As long as you pour some of the shirayim onto the base, you're good.
So what do when we talk about the inner and the outer? The inner, isn't that kochi kochim, and the outer is kochi kalim? Is that correct or no? Was that a distinction we learned earlier? Johnny, there's a lot of the material going. There's a lot of
Yeah,
things going on here with the mizbeach, but it wasn't.
you
Is
can
that
have there are. I'm trying to remember which cases there are, but you can have a chatas on the inside mizbeach and a chatas on the outside mizbeach. I don't recall what cases those are.
that's what I'm getting at? That's what I'm asking here. What
Let's see.
is it? Is it kachi kalim and kachi kachim or not?
No, chatas is always considered kachin, I think.
Okay, so then what are the two types of chatot where one would be on the inner and one would be on the outer mizbeach?
Oh, I need my sitter. Just a second.
The ones that are on that go inside are like the chatot, the communal chatot of Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol's chatat, uh, and so forth. Not the normal chatat that any of us would bring, but they're all kadshi kashim.
Uh-huh.
Let's see. That sounds, no objection. That sounds right. Um,
Well, and I'm looking in the Siddur Chato, that's Sibur. That is they're on the where were they? Bitzafon. They're on their sacrifice Bitzafon.
right.
Does it mention inner or outer? I don't see that. One second.
So
They're all
what are so the communal chatat? Besides Yom Kippur, you have the chatat on Rosh Chodesh.
Right. So the Parvaser Yom Kippurim is a chatas sibur that's on the Mizbach Hazav, the inside Mizbeach.
Yep.
And the other chatas sibur are like Rosh Chodesh is on the outside Mizbeach.
Right.
But they're all Kachi Kadashi.
Yep.
Could be. I don't see that in the Siddur, but they're talking about
Yeah,
Bitzafon.
the first paragraph in Ezu Makom and Shel Zevachim, the first paragraph
Oh,
is talking about Kachi Kadashim that go the Parvaser Yom Kippurim that go
right.
in Mizbach Hazav, and then two paragraphs down or one paragraph down, it's the Rosh Chodesh offerings, which are on the outer Mizbech.
Mizbach HaZahav,
But
Nechon.
these
That's
are
the
all
other
the
one.
Kachi Kachi. Okay. Amalei Rabbi Tosfos Rabina. Rabbi Tosfos said, "Ha'ukimna hahi beruba el yonim." We've established that brisa is talking about a majority of blood that goes above the line. And the Kohen uh, put above the line the amount of blood that was from the blood that was supposed to go below the line and a little bit more. So in other words, you know for sure that even if there was a mixture, you know for sure that some of the Ola blood got a place above the line. Okay, so if we've already established, as he says, that that's what the Bryce is talking about, then like you don't need to the whole inside mizbeach, outside mizbeach thing. It's quite a clear case of that some of it, at least some of the Ola blood was applied above the line in the proper place. So he answered, Meikara Ein Bila. That's according to those who hold that Rabbi Lazar claims that there's no mixing, right? So then it makes sense. Like if that's what so your question makes sense if you are assuming that we're talking about one bucket of mixed blood. But Maskanda Bakosas Plige, but in the end we said we're talking about not mixed blood, but different cups of blood that were mixed together. And so, each one could be the Ola or could be the Chatos. And that's why each has to be done above the line and below the line, because each one might be either this one or that one. Okay.
So they weren't mixed. They were separate cups.
Separate cups.
We just don't know which one was which.
Exactly. Yeah. So then you have to take some, each one could have been an Ola, so I have to apply some above the line. Could have been a Chatos, so I have to apply some below the line.
Doesn't matter how much.
Stop at this
How much do we apply of each cup? A quarter, a half, 10%?
It's
finger?
not clear. As long as some of it goes in the right place, you're good. I don't think we've discussed, the what proportion. So actually, let's go on a little further because we have a long daf tomorrow. Let's do the next Mishnah. Anitanim bifnim. Blood that is applied on the inside of the heichal. Shenis arvu banitanim b'chutz. It got mixed up with blood that belongs to the outside mizbeach. You don't know which one to do it on, then just pour it down the drain. Nasan b'chutz v'chazer v'nasan b'fnim. If you wanted, the Kohen went ahead and he applied both inside and outside, kosher. Then fine, because some of it did get applied on the on the correct mizbeach. Some of each got applied on the correct mizbeach. Bifnim v'chazer v'nasan b'chutz. But what if you first do it on the inside and then the outside? Rabbi Akiva posel. Then Rabbi Akiva says, no, the one that was supposed to go outside is no longer valid. And the rabbis say it's still okay. Obviously, Rabbi Akiva is saying that if the blood of an outside offering was applied on the inside mizbeach, then that cancels, that invalidates the carbon, and the rabbis don't disagree. Rabbi Akiva Omer called Rabbi Akiva says any blood that were brought into the heichal improperly become puzzle. The rabbis say no, only the chatos, but any other kind is fine. Rabbi Elazar says the asham as well. Shneimar kachatas asham, because there's this connection in the Torah that chatos and asham are treated similarly. The niflag name Rabbi Elazar baha. So like, why is Rabbi Elazar only so Rabbi Elazar, who holds of Roim, right, who says that why doesn't he use the principle of Roim to say that, okay, so the other blood is considered like water, and then it wouldn't be invalidated. Where it says Hechilevet, well, how are you going to do it? Should he first do the outside blood and then the inside? Just like there's a mitzvah to do the upper blood first and then the lower. So too, there's a mitzvah to first start with the blood for the inside mizbeach and then move to the outside mizbeach. So you can't do it that way. Maybe so, fine. So do the inside one first. Because the chatos can't, the chatos the yasham, once they go inside the to the inside of the heichal, then it becomes possible for the outside. So lopsikole, so he couldn't, he couldn't have a general statement. It's only the one way that it's fine. Okay.
Well, you're saying if you do one first and then the inside, and then it becomes possible the outside?
Yeah, if it's a nasham.
Why is that?
Because well, that's what they're arguing about in the Mishnah. Whether it could be the case. So one view is that if you take blood that belongs on the outside mizbeach and you bring it into the heichal, it automatically becomes puzzle. You violated the procedure in a way that, according to one view, invalidates the carbon.
So
that's the principle they're arguing about in the Mishnah. Is that the case or not?
And if one were to do the opposite, from the inside to the outside, isn't that what Reb Eliezer wants to say? We should do it the other way, from inside to outside.
Well, but that's a different principle, right? That there's a mitzvah to do the first one, to do the inside first. Not that it becomes invalid, but that, like, you'd be violating procedure if you do it that way. If you bring this mixture to the inside first. To the outside first, you'd be violating the procedure that requires you to first do the inside of it and then the outside of it. So there's no way out.
How do you get it to the inside without? Oh, okay. You do the inside, the carbon inside sprinkle, and then bring it to the outside. That's acceptable. That's okay.
Yeah. No, say that again. Sorry.
Do the sprinkling first inside and then outside, right? Isn't that?
Yeah,
because Elyonim Tachninim Kach
So what I'm saying is, if we're not talking about mixtures, right? We're just talking about regular procedures. What do you're supposed to do the inside of Ona first. So you have two
Right,
korbanos. One requires inside of Ona, the other requires outside. You're supposed to do the inside first.
right.
Now you
Okay,
have a mixture. So what are you going to do? On one hand, you can't do it on the outside mizbeach first because that would violate that procedure, right?
right.
On the other hand, you can't do the inside one first because then you'd be making the chatas part puzzle because you've taken the chatas blood into the inside, which makes it puzzle. So you got no way out.
Oh, it does make it puzzle?
Yes, a chatas blood that belongs outside. If you bring it inside, according to again, that's what the subject of the dispute in the Mishnah is. Um, According to the view that that makes it puzzle, then that's not an option for this mixture.
What what is the makor for that? That it makes it that it becomes puzzle?
Good question. I'm not sure if we're going to get to that or not. Guess we'll have to wait and see.
I mean, is that something we learned before and I just forgot? I mean, there are a lot of materials.
If we did, then I forgot it too.
Oh,
I don't recall. Maybe we'll get to it. I haven't gotten far enough ahead to know. So maybe we'll find out. Okay, we'll pick it up here tomorrow. Have a good day,
well,
everybody.